welcome to the course. So this is going to be this, the course is called Visual Web Development. And the name doesn't really say very much what it is about, but you will learn today. So in short, we will study how to make things in the browser, appear in the browser, and maybe things like animations, game development, some kind of interaction with the webcam, things like that. And it will be pretty much HTML, JavaScript, a little bit of CSS, things like that. But now, why would you come here? So this course is going to give you some kind of chance to practice a little bit of math, algorithms. You will need to do coding. You will have to build a project in this course. And I will also assess your presentation skills. So you will need to present the projects that you're working on. All right. But yeah, so last year we studied, I had this same course before, and we studied different concepts, and the same are the things that we expect now. So we will learn how to write modular code. We will learn a little bit of object-oriented programming. We will see what are the differences when drawing vector versus raster. So they are the two typical ways of drawing things on the screen. We will learn about animation, how to code animation, how to make the user interface and interact with the user, a little bit of image processing we can try. And it should happen in real time. So if it's going to be processing on the browser, you don't want this to be very time consuming or processor intensive. Then we will also learn sound. This is something new this year. I'm going to teach you how to generate sound. So not just import some sound file, but make sound from code. And then last year we also tried some kind of object tracking, so moving things in front of the camera and keeping track of where they are. For that we used a little bit of clustering, some machine learning, and we also played with gesture recognition, augmented reality, and we had to understand color. It's recording in another way. I'm not recording using Teams. I'm recording using alternative software. So if somebody records the Teams, you can do that as well, but it won't matter. Okay. Then what are we going to do with these concepts? So I'm going to teach by coding, and I will code things live with you, and you will have chance to interact with me and tell me how to fix some things or change some things. I will have some kind of plan, but I am not exactly sure what we will end up with, but I will teach probably all of these concepts at least a little bit while doing this year's project. So the difference this year is going to be this procedural sound. Otherwise, these things have been already in the past course, and if you're interested, you can find material from that one as well in the internet. The link from that, if you want to check it out, is here, but pretty much this year is going to be quite similar. So last year we generated some kind of these kind of visual things, polygons, some kind of procedural drawings, some physics simulations. We also did a little bit of image processing and object recognition. And I had two projects last year that I built during the course. One of them was a game, and this was inspired by a superhero franchise from this Marvel cinematic universe. The game was something you had to move your hand like this in front of the camera and draw a circle, and a portal would open if you draw the circle good enough. and you get a score depending on how round the circle is going to be. And in the end, the second project was something kind of Spiderman related, where you could shoot spider webs from your hand. So this was using webcam to kind of figure out where you are and the direction where you want these things to shoot. But this year, I'm going to have one project. It's not so fantastic as last year, and or I don't know, but I'm really interested in doing it. It's going to be to make an augmented reality piano. And to explain what that means, I will have to show you my setup here. So this is a living room, basically. And okay, my camera is kind of blocking here. This is just a lamp, a desk lamp that I have, and attached to it on top here is a webcam. It's actually the webcam I'm filming right now. I destroyed the setup for the moment. And what that webcam is filming is basically the table. So it's a blank canvas, if you will. And I can put my hands there. So I can put my hands there, and then it kind of looks like this kind of above view that you usually see in YouTube videos where people do hands and do these arts and crafts with their hands, or build something, or play a piano. That's kind of my ultimate goal for this project. I want the piano to appear virtually on that table, so that when I'm just tapping on the table, what will happen is that sound will come and I can play music using my hands in front of the webcam. That's kind of my ultimate goal for this course. When I'm teaching you these other concepts, I want to build a project that is able to do something like that. Now this camera on the top, it's linked to this lamp for a reason. It's because if I put the light on, then these shadows are going to disappear. So I'm hoping that it's going to make the task more easy to distinguish where your hands are going to be. And yeah, so I will need to somehow figure out where to generate this piano that isn't there. And then my goal will be to somehow move my fingers, and then when I'm looking at the screen, I would see piano keys there, and they will make noise as I am pressing on them. So it sounds kind of difficult, but I am almost positive that something will come out of this. So the course is not really scripted. It has some kind of scripted elements, and we will have to problem solve as we implement the components and figure out what works and what doesn't. So it's going to be teaching also this kind of problem solving aspect of things, not just this is how we do it and this is how we do the next step and so on. I have some reasons to believe that it's going to work out. You will see in one of your first exercises that I did manage to make some sounds appear by using these colored markers, so they are much easier to identify than my hands touching the table surface, which I believe is going to be more challenging. So basically, I know some things already, like that I can generate sound, that I can recognize some kind of movement, and I'm pretty sure that we can get something to work. But the goal when I'm teaching you is going to be to do something reliable, to make a system that actually works and doesn't just make noise appear, but it will appear where I'm pressing and so on. So anyway, this is from teaching point of view what you're going to expect. And this is going to be the final project. So on the way to that, we will build several mini projects to get kind of components ready, but this is my ultimate goal for the last lecture in this course. So yeah, starting with some simpler things today, actually, we're gonna try to set up a simple HTML, Canvas, JavaScript project. And tomorrow we're gonna learn to draw some things on this canvas. Next week we animate some things on this canvas. So it's very important to be able to do these things for the ultimate goal, because you want to be able to draw the piano, you want to be able to animate the keys as you're pressing them. So we will probably build some other projects, but the techniques and tools will be useful in the later part of this course as well. Then week after that, we learn how to interact with the mouse, how to make buttons appear on this canvas. And around the midway of this course, we are actually going to build a piano app, but you play it using your mouse on the screen. So not any fancy augmented reality things yet. That starts a bit later when we start to access images from the camera and from the webcam. And I have to say, the final part of this course, no idea exactly if we're going to study all those concepts I presented earlier or not. It will depend on what is needed to solve this. I don't know at the moment, but we will figure it out, hopefully, together. Then technologies that I'm going to use. So of course it's going to be a browser-based application. This is web development, and we are going to do everything front end. So don't think about back-end things, and I'm not going to request any back-end technologies from you. You can do it if you want, but I'm mostly preoccupied with visualizing things in the browser. So this is the main thing here. Then from HTML, the most recent version of HTML, which is usually referred to as HTML5, we will focus on one particular element from there, which is the canvas. You can think about it as this artist canvas where they can paint different images, but we are going to paint using code. And the programming language for that is this JavaScript. And you can note here that it says there vanilla JavaScript. You may hear this term used from developer guys very much these days. It just means JavaScript. So vanilla is used to signify, like in ice cream, that it's a plain ice cream. It doesn't have any other taste. Vanilla is kind of like a default. So we will use HTML, the canvas element and its API, and JavaScript without any external libraries. And actually in the whole code and all the things that I'm going to do here are going to just be our own code. I will not use any external code when I'm developing my own project here. So in this way, you actually understand what the algorithms are, how they are working, and how they are being put together to solve the final problem here. And another technology I'm using, and I mentioned it a bit earlier, is YouTube. And this is something that doesn't really have much to do with the software development, but I have many reasons why I'm considering YouTube here. Of course, it's for recording the lectures. But why? So in the past, I've tried recording in other ways. We have been storing our videos inside this, inside our local server on the CS server in our university. Very big file size. Very big file size. People who are not here cannot access quickly. Sometimes it takes a day to download. So YouTube is doing many helpful things here, like well, ability to show the video in different format with different quality depending on your internet speed. Of course, it has the cloud infrastructure, so if you're in another city, country, continent even, you still have quick access to it usually. Of course, there are some countries that maybe have it restricted over there, but it's a compromise that we do. Then why else? Okay, lectures are not going to be mandatory to participate in. So this is because of this recording aspect. So I have been asked for a very, very long time to record the lectures, and I know that is the thing that I should do, and especially now because of this Corona situation. So today, I don't expect all of you to follow the same time zone, and it could be that it's night now where you are, or things like that. And recording is really the only option that I can reasonably teach this course, and I have to make attendance not mandatory. So if attendance is not mandatory, a side effect happens. And I know this because I have tried in the past. The side effect is that sometimes people don't come to the course anymore because they think that I will see it later when I have time, and I prefer to do something else right now. So in that situation, another thing happens. It could be that I'm in the room with maybe 1 or 2 people, even though I have like 50 people registered for this course, and I'm not really sure if they are going to watch this or not. So putting it on YouTube gives me more motivation that some people may see these lectures even later after the course is finished. And it does indeed happen. So these kind of technologies are popular nowadays. And I think that my own kind of motivation to teach is important to be as high as possible, because then I teach better and the quality of the teaching becomes good. So these are all the reasons why YouTube is the platform where I'm going to post all of these things. Then the evaluation. So there will be 5 exercise sessions in this course. That's the time when I don't record anything. You are going to do most of the speaking, and the exercise tasks are going to be solved by you and things like that. We will also discuss very much your project status, your project situation, and see if you have any issues with that, with whatever you're going to be building there. The project will be built in teams. You will need to find a team member, and there will be minimum of 2 people in a team, so I don't accept 1 person teams anymore. The exercises are mandatory, but again, because of this special situation this year, I will make 1 acceptable excuse. So you can skip 1 exercise. And therefore you must attend 4 out of 5 exercises to be able to present your final project and answer. Well, here I wrote answer to the questions. I just mean that when you present your project, I'm going to evaluate you through the presentation, by the presentation, and I will ask questions about everything related to your project. This includes source code, decisions you made, how you collaborated, and things like that. So based on your presentation of the final project, the grade is going to come. And of course, source code and other things of the projects are very important. You have to pay special attention to the idea. So when you come up with the idea, this is something that I evaluate, and how you decided to solve the problem. I will look at the code quality and if there are bugs, like if it works as expected. I will evaluate how you collaborate with your partner or partners. You can have larger teams if you want. And the project presentation, it will need to be concise, focus on the right things, and well, you will see later because I will give you some material to study how to give good presentations. And of course the Q&A. I need to make sure that you are the guys working on the project, so the evaluation, the exam, it's gonna be 6 hours, and we will take turns, and I will make sure that everybody is a master of their own project there. You may choose harder projects or easier projects. If you choose a too easy project, don't expect to get the highest grade. So this is where the maximum grade 5 may be reduced to even half, even if you do all the other things, because you chose an easier project. Now, having half the maximum grade is not a bad thing, and if you want to be sure that the project is a pass and you don't have bugs in it and you don't have problems with it, then maybe choosing an easier project is advisable. You have to think about this. Also, if you choose a very hard project, like if you really want to stress yourself in this, then I appreciate this, and you will get some bonuses for that. So that means that maybe you have some bugs in the code, or maybe your code is not so clean, or things like that, or your presentation didn't go that well. And you may still get the maximum grade because of this. Now, at the exercises, at each of the exercises, they don't really count for the grade, except sometimes when I could give bonuses if you do something especially nice. You will see as the exercises are coming that some of them may count as a bonus point to the final grade. That means that even if you choose an easy project, if you do the exercises really well, you may end up with a grade 5 after all. So don't be discouraged to choose sometimes easier project, because this is really more about understanding yourself and choosing something suitable for you. I'm stressing again this teams of 2. So last year, well, I didn't stress this well enough, and I got requests for people to do solo projects, and they did. And long story short, this happened. I had over 1 million lines of code to read, and don't get me wrong, I liked it. But I have other things to do as well, and I appreciate you to form 2 or more person teams this year. It's very difficult if I have individual projects from all of you guys, and then I have to check new projects all the time when they are getting updated. Last year I also made a mistake, and I had people do multiple larger size projects. So now you only have one project to worry about, and I also ask you to have at least one other team member. Okay, so you can already start to think about them now. You can check the exercise sheets that I uploaded into Teams. Let me know if you don't find them or if there are any issues with that. I also posted a link there to one video on YouTube. So that's something I tried to do a couple of weeks ago, maybe month, I don't remember. But anyway, I made many projects in a very short time. And you can look at the final result for that to see what kind of things are possible and think what you would like to experiment with. Then I want you to choose something that you want to do. So anything as long as you can visualize it on the canvas. It can be interactive teaching software, it can be a game, educational game, traditional type of game, and things like that. It can be procedural art, like some people write code that displays very nice looking things on the canvas. And I don't really have very much artistic practice recently, but you can find on YouTube more better tutorials than my course from last year, or this one long video I did, this marathon of coding. So, for example, there is this channel. So Frank has a deep focus on making things look good, and we also collaborate sometimes, but not very much. But I have met him, and I have seen that he puts very much passion into making things look good. If you want to see to do a project that looks especially good, maybe study some of his content. Then you can also choose these other kind of things like music, physics. So this year I'm going to teach some things about sound. Maybe you want to make some automatic music making system or something like that. You may have to do some self-study to that. Physics simulations are always nice and possible, but I won't focus on physics this year. My last year course focused on that, if you want to learn more about that when making your project. And this virtual augmented reality things, I will do definitely this year also, because of this piano thing that isn't there. You can use libraries. I will not use external libraries because I want to teach how the things are working, and I want to give some ideas of how the external libraries can work. For example, last year we pretty much built some physics engines in the course. But this year I won't do. If you're interested in physics, you could use this kind of Box2D, for example, or Canon.js. They are libraries that do the physics for you. But when I evaluate your code and your project, you have to realize that those components are some things that you haven't done. And I will not consider how impressive the project is just because you're using an external library. So I'm going to grade your effort into this course. You can use them, but make sure that you add on top of them something that is really, really great. Again, I don't have much material to help with this, but I have recently found this YouTube channel, this Hunor. He is making similar kind of things that we are doing in this course, but he is using libraries as well as sometimes just plain JavaScript and no external code. So you can check also his things. And soon we are going towards this coding part. So before we get to that, are there any questions about what is going to be this course, what it's going to be about, how it's going to go? Are you clear about the exercises, the projects, things like that? Is there anything unclear here?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
For the exercises, do we have to make them at home before the session, or it will be like live evaluated, or it will like, and I don't know.
Yeah, so you will have to do them before the live event. So before we have our meeting, they need to be completed. And during the meeting, we will check them. So I may ask you some of the things from there, but at each exercise, I'm going to ask you to have some kind of code. So some kind of things developed there. And when you develop, you will put a link to your project there, and that's going to be really the main thing of that exercise.
And if we don't succeed to like make one exercise, it is like important, or we can like stay.
You can skip one exercise. So 4 out of the 5 sessions are important, but you need to be present in our discussions there. Otherwise, even
if we don't succeed to make like one exercise, and if we don't, it is like a shame, or if
no.
I don't succeed to code something.
No. So you have to try and do something. If it's a really difficult task and there is some clear problem that you are facing, leave it like that and it's a pass. So exercises don't account to the grade. You just need to do something there and answer the tasks as well as you can. Okay. If you answer them especially well, then you will get possibly a bonus sometimes. Let's see, 5-person team, okay for the project. Yes, it better be a good project. So
we will be discussing the projects, the discussion will be on the Moodle or on the Teams that we will be discussing on it.
I think Teams will be able to let me to form groups, some kind of sub-teams, or do some kind of referencing to the people in the same team. So I don't know how this system works very well, but this addresses also Mari's question. I think that we can do it here in Teams. I think that we will evolve, like if your team already knows how to use some kind of system, then probably better to use that one. But what I will need to check is the source code from time to time to see that your project is evolving. So not just coming up at the end like, I did this and I have never seen anything related to that before. So I will have some kind of checkpoints along the way, probably at exercise 3, and then the final exercise, because the exam is going to be, I think, 2 more weeks after the final exercise. So that gives you a little bit more time to polish the things. So I will do at least 2 evaluations before the final one to see what you have so far. And we need to communicate somehow. I think it's possible to do that in Teams, but if it's not, let's see. For the first week, like this week and next week, your focus is to talk to people, to think about the project. It's not necessary to start working on it yet. Of course you can, no problem with that, but you will have enough time for that also later. So by default, let's use Teams for the communication, and if it's not enough, we will maybe consider something else. So we could switch to Discord maybe, or Slack, or some other kind of tool at some point. If you guys make your own teams in some other software, in some other system, add me to that. But I don't want it to become a hassle. I want the projects to be something you want to do. So this is something in the first place that you are interested in. Only thing I ask is to visualize it. And I am flexible with software and things like that. Any other questions? Okay, so about the coding. This is something I usually tell to students, and I think many people know this, but just in case. It's important that when you start to code something, when you start to make a project, when you work in a company and agree to what the customer asks, it's important to know if that thing can be done or not. Because there are also some things that cannot be done. There are some things in this world that just cannot be done at this moment, and it's your job to know what those things are. This kind of project that I'm doing, it's actually very borderline. I've never seen anywhere something like this, that you type this piano thing, have this kind of virtual piano just in front of the camera. So I'm a bit worried that it may not end up good, but my focus here is not to make that project. My focus here is to teach you the methods that you can use in your own projects or other things. And this just adds me motivation to teach the things well and to be excited about the course. I think this is very important, the project task in my case. But for your project, I ask that you have something that will really work. And don't get me wrong, I will get this to work. So I'm not making excuses for myself. I'm just setting the thing interesting enough so that you follow. Now, when you know that something can be done, this is a bit, how do you know that? Because I'm pretty sure that you don't know how to make anything without external help. So there are some things that you know how to do and you could do blindly. Like if the internet falls off, you can still work on your project and know how to do some things. But much of the thing is actually knowing how to look something up. So coding these days is very different from what it used to be maybe 20 years ago, when you study a book and you learn all the components, all the available functions, libraries there, and then you start doing it. Nowadays, of course, some people still do like that, and they are considered experts usually if they know all the intricacies of a programming language or a programming paradigm. But most of the people don't. They just look up how to do some things. Either they have skills for how to scan the libraries, like the documentation from different programming languages, frameworks, whatever, or they know how to Google pretty much, or how to search the internet, what keywords to use to find forum posts, threads where people discuss a similar problem and found solutions for it. This is actually the default thing that is done nowadays, and you will see me doing it, and I expect you to do it as well. I also would prefer if you cite some kind of resource, if it's not just somebody telling you 2 lines of code, but if you find something, cite it. If you don't cite it, I will find out. I found out many things last year. So if you find somebody solving your problem somewhere, put a reference to it, because it's a very nice thing to do. If that person only says, yes, use this function, and then that function is something like line 2 XY, then that doesn't need a citation. But if it's a complete algorithm or a serious thing, make sure that you let me know where you found it. It's very important. You are not penalized for doing that in any way. Of course, if your project at the end has a lot of these citations and you're just putting together some of the things, it could affect a little bit, but half a grade or so. It's very much work into finding things that are helpful in your case and putting the things together. So I would say almost no penalty for doing this, but don't have your project just copied from somewhere entirely, because I will find out and that will receive a penalty. So finding help in many places, putting them together, totally accepted. It's almost the same as writing the code from your memory, but not the complete project in any way. Okay, and tools. So I will be using some tools here. Not very professional tools, I would say. So, okay, I have some clarifications to do. So I will code in Notepad++. I have many reasons for doing that. I don't know if, well, maybe I should explain some of the things. So other IDEs are very popular nowadays. People use things like Sublime, Visual Studio Code. There are some tools like those mentioned, and even Notepad++ has a little bit that auto-complete your code, check it for validity. I really wanted just to tell me syntax highlighting so that I know what are the keywords there and things like that. Of course, indentation and things like this, I like it that it remembers my indentation and things like that. But I don't want it to complete the code for me. This is very important in my case because I am teaching you. If your IDE or text editor or code editor completes the code for you, it's going to open these boxes, these big boxes, covering half the code and recommending you all kind of things. And these boxes are going in and out all the time. That's what happens when you use a professional IDE or text editor. And they are really distracting. So from a teaching point of view, it's actually better if your text editor is as simple as possible. And I even had to disable some of the things in Notepad++. I find them disturbing, and actually it's not often that students complain about it, but I consider it important thing. Another reason for Notepad++ is personal. It's just because I have been using it many years because my students are writing in very many different languages, and it's just portable enough that I can read any type of code with it. So I'm good with it. It's not the best tool, but it's something I'm familiar with. Google Chrome. I'm not advertising Google, but you may hear me saying it several times. I'm definitely not advertising anything here, but they are something that I chose. It's funny because I was working for Microsoft for a while, and well, Google is opposite end somehow, so I don't recommend anything. But I will have to make some selections, and I choose Google Chrome. I prefer it because of its console and its developer tools. I think they are a little bit more powerful than what other browsers have, but a little bit. You can do the debugging and development in anything you want, but I will use this tool, and I can say I recommend it, but it's not really like any kind of sponsorship or things like that. And I will use PowerPoint. I'm not sure if I'm going to need it. Of course, I'm using it now to teach you these slides, but I may use it for some kind of graphic design or drawing. Again, it's not the thing of choice for making visuals, but I use it because it's available to you. So there are some other tools that are available and free, but I think this is enough for the things that we are going to do in this course, and we may not even need it. Then, as mentioned before, I will need your code. I will need to access your code somehow, and of course you will need to figure out what is the best thing for your team. I recommend using this CodePen system. So CodePen is a website where people paste their code, and you can see the resulting HTML page working next to it. And you can see the code on the left divided into HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So basically, I don't need to download any code on my computer. And this was especially difficult last year when I had those millions of lines of code projects there, sorting things out. I did it on my own computer, and I want to try something new. So I would prefer if everybody tries out this CodePen, and they also have some kind of weekly, monthly challenges there, and I will refer to them in the exercises. So I will have some exercise tasks for you guys, but you could also choose to do whatever challenges are on this website instead. They are quite similar things to what we do in the course. And if you do those, and if you become really good at them, and they showcase your project at the end of the month, or the week, they are weekly challenges actually, but the monthly themes, then you will get some bonus points at your final grade. So I somehow want to encourage you to see what these communities are like, and have some kind of flexibility. Like not everybody has the same kind of task, and of course you can do those, but have an open mind. And really any alternative to these are okay. I know there is this JavaScript JS Fiddle and some other things. GitHub is definitely there and works with any kind of programming language. But since our course is related to web, then this CodePen is specifically targeted for that. This JS Fiddle as well, but would be nice to have some kind of standard if possible. So yeah, I think this is it about the introduction, and I'm gonna start coding soon. So any more questions about this introduction part? Okay, some questions in the chat. No maximum number of students, but when I evaluate, I will consider how well you collaborated. This is one part of the grade. So if it ends up being 10 students and one student does all the work, the other ones may even fail. So I will have to consider the project difficulty as a ratio to the number of people. But I expect 5 to be kind of a maximum number. Like there is no, I don't impose a limit. You may want to make a very, very ambitious project. Think about the project like maybe maybe you want to do something like Pokemon Go. Well, okay, it has a location aspect, but anyway, in Pokemon you have all those Pokemon, and they are many of them. I think they were like 150 in the original series. Maybe your project is so ambitious and it has this kind of collective aspect, this collective motif, that you need a team of designers maybe making many visuals to add into the system. You cannot do this type of application by yourself if you're going to plan to draw so many elements. So this artistic part of the work is also tied into the code, but it's very important in some applications that the things look good. So in that kind of sense, it would be a very ambitious project, but it would also limit that many people need to be very good at design and so on. So I don't limit it, but I consider 5 to be a realistic upper bound. Yes, so about where to return the codes for the exercises, there is already in the, I made an assignment to everybody in the team, and there is a link there to Google Docs spreadsheet that says where you have to mention a link to the codes that you are going to do, either your project works or the individual exercise things. But you cannot do the code for the first exercise because today and tomorrow I will have to build a project that you need to continue. So things will become clearer, and I will, in the worst case, end up sending email to everybody with what to do next. But you can check out how those tasks are. Some of them you can do already. But basically, you can choose your place where you're going to put your code, be it like a GitHub or CodePen. I would prefer this CodePen. Again, not some kind of sponsor, but I like the service, and I think that it opens to you the community of people who are doing the same things and can motivate you. Or you may find some additional inspiration there. So it's for learning purposes. And basically in these spreadsheets, I will need a link to your work. If it's a zip file uploaded somewhere, GitHub, CodePen. CodePen would be the easiest for me to handle, and I think most beneficial for you if you will ever be interested in these things. Yeah, so if you didn't find these exercise tasks, try to see these assignments in Teams. It should be there, and many people already looked at them. Also, I will continue to send some emails in WebAudi because I think not everybody may be in the team. I tried to add everybody, but people have been coming even in these last minutes. So, yeah. Okay. Was there some question? Okay, if no question, then I think I have to end up back into the console. Let's see. So this is my setup. We are gonna start some coding. By the way, somebody has their microphone open. Please check and close it if there are no questions. Okay, so these are the tools I previously mentioned. On the left, you have Notepad++, and I just have an empty HTML file here. And on the right, you should see the browser window, which is pointing to this empty HTML file at the moment. Yeah, so it's a blank page. It's kind of white blank page. And at the bottom, you see the Google Chrome developer console. So this console is something that I will open from time to time. It's really useful in debugging, and it's one of the reasons why I chose this this Google Chrome here. Okay, my computer seems to lag. I wonder if it's because the processor is so used. Yeah. Okay. So, the developer console, you can open it, I think, from this More Tools. And from this Developer Tools, there is also keyboard shortcut for it, and I use another shortcut, F12. F12 also works. And the console actually is only one of the things here in the developer tools. There are multiple things that you can use to debug your application, but this one, the sources and the elements, I would say they are the most useful things. The elements, they just show the complete DOM tree of the HTML. So this code basically, and the sources is going to be for things like JavaScript. But at the moment this is empty. I actually don't have any code inside my my notepad, but here it gives me some kind of basic HTML structure, even though this should be empty, because that's just how browsers work. So I will start with defining some kind of simple structure like this. HTML pages, well, they start with the HTML tag, and then this head tag is something that we use to define things like the title of the page, to include additional source files like JavaScript, or styles like CSS. The title of the page is also written here, and you may be interested to know that most people omit it. So there was some research that my team did some years ago, and only 5%, if I remember right, of web pages had this title element. And this makes sense because the title only appears really in the top part of the web page. You don't even see it here because I'm not having the tags, but it's the text that appears in the tag, in the tab of the page on top. So now after I wrote here lecture 1, it has a name there. So many people don't even use this, but I find it really important because nowadays people have like millions of tabs open, and you want to know which is which. Then this is where we are going to have our scripts. So for example, where we will define our styles. This is CSS. So CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. And it uses a different syntax. It's basically another programming language, and it's going to go here. I think the comments are written with this number symbol, but I'm not 100% sure. Let's see. And the JavaScript goes here in the script tag. So these are the 3 main elements when making web pages. You need a script tag, a style tag, and you're going to add here JavaScript code and CSS code. And the main part of the HTML goes into the body. And, well, the most important thing that we are going to add into this body is going to be a canvas. So canvas, as I mentioned before, is going to be the thing that we are using to draw things on. And that's how the tag is called. It's canvas. I'm going to give it an ID that I can refer to it later. Maybe I call it my canvas. And I'm closing the tag. And yeah, this is now basic structure here. Let's see if the page has any errors. It doesn't. You can see now in these elements that my canvas appears here, and in the head I have some kind of title and some kind of place here for the CSS and the JavaScript. I should also note that usually these are written in external files, CSS and JavaScript, and we are going to separate them in external files later, but let's get some code there first to really have a reason to do it. All right. Now, I defined a canvas here, but you can see that on the page it's not really visible unless I hover on this tag here in the elements. So when I'm doing that, you can see it highlighted on the page. This is me debugging the web page. But without that, the page would just look empty. So one thing that you can tell from here is that the canvas is either white or maybe transparent. So this is first lesson that we are going to check today. And to check that, I think that we can set the style of the body. So let's try to set the style of the body to have a different background. Let's make it blue. Okay, so we made a blue background. It seems to work. And my canvas is still there. So my canvas was actually not white, it was transparent. So now I basically see through that canvas and I see this blue background of the HTML page. You can also see that this canvas is not really starting on the left and the top part of this page. There is some kind of border there, some implicit border there. I'm not sure if you can see it here, but it's not glued to the side of to the left side of the browser or to the top side of the browser window. And you can actually remove those extra things if you want, and sometimes you do because different browsers may have different default values there. So you may want to set them implicitly. So you could do something like that. And if I refresh the page now, I'm going to, you can see now the canvas got glued to those places. But okay, let's make the canvas visible somehow. So I'm going to say that the canvas is going to have a white background. Now it's visible there. And well, now I could ask how do I want my project set up to be? And in my case, I will have to consider many different variables here, because at some point I'm going to use the camera. Also, different cameras have different aspect ratios, different sizes. It's very hard for me to make a decision right now. So I'm going to have a default canvas that I'm going to work with, and I'm going to make it a square. Okay. Now, to make this a square and maybe also center it in the page, I can also use some CSS tricks. For example, if I set the position to absolute and I move it 50% from the top and 50% from the left, you can see something has happened. My canvas is now so that this top left corner is precisely in the middle of the page. So this is what happens when you do this absolute positioning, 50% from the top and 50% from the left. It refers to the page itself, this 50%. If I want my canvas to actually be centered in the middle of the page so that its center is here, I need to transform it and translate it half to the left and half to the top. So this is possible to do in more modern CSS. So I'm translating it by half to the left and by half to the top, and this is now centering me this canvas in the middle of the page. The size of this canvas, I could maybe make it for now fixed. Let's experiment a little bit and learn more CSS syntax. So I could put, for example, a width of 300 pixels and a height of 300 pixels. This looks decent, I would say, here. But very important is to think about your screen size and all the screen sizes of everybody who might be using your app. So basically, what I mean here is that there is a button in the developer tools that you could use for this purpose. It lets you resize the screen in different proportions and to see how will your application look on some different screen sizes. And here on the top, there are actually presets for some of the modern applications out there, devices out there. So for example, I could check it how it looks like iPad, and I see that I have all this border here because 300 by 300 pixels is something very small. Some social media applications use that size for a picture, for somebody's profile picture. It's quite small. If we want the canvas to be the center of attention, we need to consider the size of the screen, and this is how it looks on this Pixel 2 or iPhone 5. It's something not particularly good to declare the size of your objects in pixels nowadays. It's more important to look at these other units. I forget the name now, but viewport something. They are VW, VH, and VMin, Vmax, for example. When you're using these instead of pixels, it means that you are referring to the size of the viewport in which your browser is open. So for example, if I set here 30 VW, for example, and 30 VH, so W here stands for width and H stands for height. Now it's going to resize so that 30% of the viewport height is going to be used for this. So even though you have here 30/30, VW and VH mean something different. This is not a square anymore. You can see it. If I'm gonna put here 100% and 100%, this actually stretches on the whole screen. And I have to say that this is something that you may want to do on mobile devices if you want to target those, because having borders, margins on a mobile device is not a good idea. They are usually limited. They have small screen size, and you don't want empty, useless real estate there. So, for example, you could put here maybe 80% margin. This maybe could be okay on a tablet, like on an iPad, if you really want to have some kind of margin. Then these tablet sizes are something that you could consider, that it's okay to add a margin. But I'm gonna build a desktop application, so I can't make my piano work on a phone, because even if I use the camera, and it will work, I could put my phone up here as the camera and then try to do something. I can't look on the screen at the same time properly to see the keys that I am pressing. So it needs to be at a certain height, and I'm not making a mobile application. But these tools that I am showing you now, and the way that I am playing with these units, is for you to know. Maybe you will target mobile devices. Who knows? Yes.
What is the difference between the VW, VH, comparing them to traditional percentage? Because it does work. It just transforms it naturally.
Actually, a very good idea. I'm not entirely sure. Let's see. Yeah, it looks pretty much the same. I am not entirely sure why they are more used nowadays than the percentages, but they seem to be more used in development. I suspect there is a way in CSS that you can calculate different values. So for example, you could do something like something like that. It may end up being a bit weird with the percentages and not equivalent. So in many cases, I think that you can use the percent and end up to the same result. But today I said that I want to do a square canvas. And this is something I cannot do with the percent. And I need to use the viewports. For example, now, sorry. If I do this, it's equivalent to the percent. But if I, instead of VW and VH, put V minimum, this means the minimum of VH and VW. And if I put V minimum here as well, then now I'm going to get here 80% of the minimum of width and height. And this is one specific situation where percents just don't help you. But again, for what example I gave before, where you want this same kind of percentile margin everywhere, you can use those as equivalent. Is this clear? Maybe
At least for me.
Okay, very good. So they have some uses. And of course, if I put here 100 of this, then I will remove the borders. And sometimes you have applications like this that require a square space there. This is true for many things like chess or Sudoku or things that are played or need a square canvas to be displayed on. What usually happens in mobile devices is that the bottom part becomes ads or something like that. But they are kind of decisions that you need to make. And in my case, I want my app to be somehow general enough and easy to work with. I think that cropping whatever resolution your webcam has and putting it on a square canvas should do the trick for me. It's something I don't particularly like because if you think about the piano, it is long. So actually having a very wide screen would be more useful in my case. But let's start with this and see where it goes. And I'm going to default it to 80% of this minimum viewport size so that I do see that there are some margins there. And again, I can play here with this responsive mode. You can see that now when it's stretching horizontally, Vmin refers to the height. But when I'm stretching it vertically, it refers to the width. So, of course, if your device is very, very stretched like this, there is a lot of empty space there. But, well, I have to choose something, and this is somehow overall the best idea at the moment. But we can switch these anytime. Okay, so we have some kind of positioning here. And I think I can remove this this device mode, this device toolbar, and just see a basic browser window here. So this is what you would see on a desktop computer. And I want to add some more things here. So I think that I want to be able to say what is this project going to be. And instead of a title, I want to have a text box over the canvas here that gives more details, like what did we learn today. And I'm going to use this, maybe I'm going to use a div or maybe the spray element. This is, let's give it a name like text box. It lets me write text in it, like let's say simple project setup, HTML, Canvas, CSS, and JavaScript. And details. Blah, blah, blah. Let's do some kind of placeholder text here. So I'm going to summarize what we learned today in this text box. And the reason I'm using this spray element is because I don't have to specify line breaks using this kind of syntax. In HTML, you need to specify line breaks like this, but inside the pre element, it actually recognizes the new lines that I enter here. So if I go back to the main page, you can see here that this is formatted as I expect it to be here. And if I'm going to add some spacing here, it's going to consider this spacing here. If this would be a simple div element, then I need to worry about that. It's just going to put everything in a single line. So it's something you won't really see used very often, but I find it nice. And sometimes you can even add a little bit of styling here. For example, now this top part is more emphasized like a title, and this is not emphasized. So this stands for the bold style. Okay, but I said that I want this to be on top of the canvas, so pretty much I need to copy this type of positioning that I'm doing here also for my text box. And this text box here is, I want to refer to it by ID. If I do this, I basically specify all the canvases that I'm going to draw here. That I'm going to put on my canvas, on my page. If I'm going to add like 10 canvases, all of them are going to be put in the center. So maybe this is not what I want, but I'm only going to need one, so I don't need to worry about that. But here, I want to specify it by ID. And when you do that in CSS, you need to use this. Yeah, okay, comment was, it's probably something different. I think, I think this probably would be comment in CSS. But yeah, so the number sign says that I want only the element with this ID to be positioned, not any other pre-element that I'm making. So this is a little bit of CSS lessons, but CSS is not going to be the main focus. We will really focus on this canvas element and its methods, but just so you know. Yeah, so now you can see this happening here, and actually this doesn't really start at the top here. There is a little bit of space because it even considers this first new line as a new line. So if I don't want that to appear, okay, it doesn't work. Interesting. I'm not sure if this is some bug or something, but not a very big deal, so let's just leave it for now. Okay, so I have now also some kind of text explaining to me what this is. I could style it a little bit. Let's just do a very quick styling here. I'm going to remove the let's leave the background. But if I leave it to white, it's going to cover the canvas. So if my canvas will be drawing something, this is going to be on top of it, and I will not be able to see what is behind anymore. So I could give a hint of what is behind by making it transparent. For example, this stands for RGB, red, green, and blue. And the last element is the alpha. This is for transparency. So if I make it 0, 0, 0, it means 0 red, 0 green, 0 blue, which means black, like none of the pixels are lit. But if I add an alpha of 0.7, it's going to let whatever is behind it be a little bit visible. So if I'm going to refresh the page now, I can see here that, okay, this thing that I have on top of the canvas is a little bit transparent. And you can actually see that it's not a new line here. Okay, it's just offset a little bit for some reason, like there is some kind of padding.
It's called margin in the inspect element.
Okay.
It's 1 EM by default.
Okay, good, thanks. So I copied here the padding and margin from above with 0, and it fixed it. That's good. Thanks a lot. So I'm hoping this type of interaction is going to happen because I have to say I'm actually not an expert at browser things. I do know very many things about algorithms and visualizing things, but I can learn many things from you guys. Okay. Yeah, of course you can put different kind of values here, like maybe you can do a padding in pixels, like 19 pixels. Then you will get something like this. But it's actually a quite good idea not to have a padding in pixels, but to have a value, again, using these viewport units, because you may want the padding to be to grow proportionally to something else, to the size of your screen. So you can consider that. At the moment, I'm not going to play with these things. You can play with them if you want, but I just want something to cover this this canvas and tell me what this project is about. I'm also going to make the color of the text white, so this makes it a little bit more easier to read now because I have a darker background. So usually you want light text on dark background. Of course, dark text on white background, but this is now what I'm gonna have. And maybe I'm gonna play with the margin and say 1v min. Let's see how this looks like. No, not very good. Padding. Okay, but it goes outwards. How about I make this 70% inwards and maybe add also a border. Okay, so now I have also this round border here. It's covering the canvas, but not entirely. It kind of looks like some overlay, and I think I like it like this. Let's leave it like that. Of course, this is gonna be the title, and I want it to disappear somehow. Maybe I can make it disappear by clicking on it. Let's just make it disappear by clicking on it somehow. I'm going to say here on click, give it the function. Is that how you write disappear? Or does it have 2 S's and Can somebody comment or is correct? Yeah, too much trouble. Let's just say it's correct, and you let me know if it's not. So this is going to be a function here, and this is going to be a JavaScript function. So in JavaScript, I'm going to say like that, and it's going to need to disappear. So I need to target the element somehow. There could be many ways of doing this. I could get it from the parameter here, or I could write this on click entirely in JavaScript. But for now, I'm going to teach you how to target this element. So I want the element with ID text box. So document get element by ID text box. This is going to be my element. Let's just say something like that. And I think it's like this, but I'm not entirely sure. So what I want to do here is target the element that I want to make disappear, and put its style to none if it works. This will be unclick. So, okay, it actually works. You can see now that my element here added style with display none as I clicked on it. This is not a very good naming, because here I'm disappear what? Canvas could disappear, the blue background can disappear. I should give a proper name to this, like a remove overlay, maybe. Or make a general function here, disappear or hide. Usually hide is the proper terminology. And make it general so that I can hide anything I give it as a parameter. In that way, I could reuse that somewhere else. But I'm not going to focus on HTML and this kind of document object model elements here. We will work with Canvas. That's going to be the priority in this course. So for now, this is just fine. So this remove overlay, it's a little bit more more intuitive. Maybe we call this overlay so that the code is easily readable and we know what the overlay is. So you can see now the pre element has an ID of overlay, remove overlay is here. When I click on it, I get an error. I get an error. You can see the error in the console, and it's going to tell you what the problem is. If you click on some of these hyperlinks, it's going to jump you into the code where the error is happening. And here the problem is that the element doesn't exist anymore because this text box I replaced with overlay. So that's how debugging works. Of course, there is more to debugging than this, and we will definitely have to study things like breakpoints and going through the code, but one step at a time. Okay, so this is pretty much going to be our project setup. This text here is going to teach us what we have learned. Summarize what is inside this code. So I will change this text every time we, at every lecture. And now we still have a little bit of time left, so I will use maybe 5 minutes more for a little bit of better styling. Let's add a gradient to the background. This is something that past year students wanted more. They wanted my application to look a little bit nicer than what it does now. So I think gradients is something that you could consider. And there are tools that can help you. For example, this gradient.io website. Let's copy it here. This gradient.io lets you make a gradient by playing with these. Okay. By playing with these sliders. Many things. You can add more colors, remove some colors. You can change the angle of the gradient. Something like that. And then you just copy this code from here and put it where you want to apply the gradient. So now I'm going to apply it in the body element. I just pasted it here, and I think that I can remove the previous blue background. It would get overwritten, but I remove it now. And going back to my main page, very beautiful. Well, not a big difference, but I think that it's important to check these out. What else? Is there anything that we can still do in a couple of minutes? Well, yeah, let's separate the CSS JavaScript and HTML, and then I think we are done for today. So to separate this code, I'm going to copy it in a new file. I'm going to call this. Now you won't see when I'm doing this because I'm only sharing some pages, but I'm making a new file in the same directory and I'm calling it main CSS, and inside it I will paste this CSS code. Okay, something is weird. My computer is a bit lagging now, I think, because of the video sharing and recording and things like that. So I'm saving the CSS in here. I can remove it from this page. And I'm going to do the same for JavaScript. So I'm going to make a new file, main.js, I guess, or maybe we should call this common. Yeah, this should be probably renamed, let's see, because this will be used in all of our future projects. So we're going to reuse these styles, and I think that it's important to be able to do that. So removing this code here and pasting it in a separate file, and now I need to link these files in my main HTML page. So to link it here, I'm going to say something like this, I think. So main.css, I named it. So that's how we load this CSS, and actually it's a different syntax for the JavaScript file. I think it's something like this. I think this should work. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so no errors here. Remove overlay is not defined. Okay, this is a problem. Remove overlay is not defined. But how can that be? Because it should be in my sources. It's not. Sorry, this is source for the script. Yeah, I don't remember these things, and I think it's quite normal. Okay, now it works. So I will update today what this is, what we learned today in this overlay thing. And this is just a simple project setup that we are going to continue to build. I will put a link to these so you can access. And tomorrow we will learn about drawing things on the canvas, which is basically blank at the moment. So that's pretty much it.